So I will give a small overview of the legal framework of the emission limits in the Croatia. Croatia Ministry of Environment and Energy defines and monitors implementation of projects that are aimed to reducing national greenhouse gas emissions and improving the overall level of sustainability of the Croatian society. The Croatian Agency for the Environment and Nature is in charge of organizing the preparation of the inventory of green gas emissions and data collection, development of quality assurance and quality control plan, and selection of an authorized institution. So, preceding the Paris Agreement, the country fulfilled its obligation under the Kyoto Protocol. This consists of lowering green gas emissions by 5% over the period 2008 to 2012. In total, Croatia has 11 climate laws and 4 climate policies. The law of energy efficiency, which was adopted in 2014, advocates the strong commitment to green gas emissions reductions. In 2008, Croatia adopted the Sustainable Development Strategy that outlined the quantitative targets such as 20% renewable energy sources by 2020 and 1 to 2% annual decrease in energy intensity per unit of gross domestic product. When the country became a member of the EU in 2013, it's pledged to active involvement in the 2020 energy strategy, which aims to reduce member states' green gas emissions by at least 20%, increase the share of renewable energy to at least 20% of consumption, and achieve energy savings of 20%. Currently, Croatia is in the process of drafting a low carbon development strategy by 2030 with a view to 2050, a document that is in synchronization with the European strategic guidelines and the country United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Commitments. And on the next slide, you can see the time horizon low carbon strategy of Croatia. And you can see the overview with the view of the 2050 period, which Croatia sets the targets to 80 to 95% compared to year 1990. Regarding the emission limits in Croatia, currently, emissions limits are regulated by the European Union emission trading system for production units with the thermal output higher than 20 megawatt. In Croatia, around 9 big heat and electricity production units are regulated by the European Union emission trading system. In addition, we have several acts and laws are complementary with European Union emission trading system in order to monitor and verify and report on CO2 emissions in Croatia, in Croatian energy sector. But the several approaches or approving the whole European Union emission trading system in Croatia we have, but the clear path and concrete measures are not yet to be defined on the national level for now. So this is the current situation regarding the emission limits in Croatia. This is my presentation, and you have some questions or.
Thank you very much, Martina. Maybe let's collect the questions for the end of the 5 presentations.
Okay.
So please keep them in mind. Now, who wants to continue?
So I can be next.
Yeah, great. Anna?
So, yes. Can I share my screen?
Chiara, can you give the role, the moderator?
Done.
Anna.
Anna, you can go.
Do you see my presentation? Do you see my slide? Yes.
Yes, we see it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
so hello everyone. I will shortly present the situation in Poland regarding the emission limits. At the beginning, I would like to give a short overview about the structure of the fuel mix used to produce heat in Poland. So as you can see in the chart, the dominant fuel used for heat production in Poland in 2002 and 2019 is still coal. However, a very positive trend is visible here. The permanent reduction of its use in the heating sector in relation to the renewable energy sources increasing. Also, this is another positive issue. The share of heat from cogeneration in 2019 was over 65% of total heat production. So the use of coal is still connected not only with the buying of more expensive CO2 emission permits, but also the challenges related to the adaptation of installation to emission standards. So in Poland, we have our national emission limits regulated by the regulation of climate minister of 25 September this year about emission standards for certain types of installation, fuel combustion source and waste incineration or co-incineration equipment. But we also have to comply with European standards, which are much more restrictive than Polish limits. So in the table compares the limits from for existing facilities resulting from Polish and European regulation on SO2, nitrogen oxides and particulate matters emission. So these numbers referring to the same power level of plants. And as you can see, in case of SO2 emission, the European limits are even 4 times more restrictive than Polish ones. The situation with the emission of particulates is also similar. Only in the case of nitrogen oxides, Polish limits don't so much different from European standards in the easiest level, but as there are, they are higher anyway. So these European requirements are very restrictive for the Polish energy sector, and this is a big challenge for our thermal power industry based mainly on coal. I would like to also mention about the capacity market mechanism. So in Poland is also an additional support from combined heat and power plants, facilities using cogeneration because it provides some benefits from them. And the capacity market is based on power auction, mainly on a year, on which obligates are offered readings to deliver a certain amount of power for a full year. However, cogeneration plants operate in such a way that other levels of power can offer in winter, and other levels of power can be offered in summer, which with much less the heat demands. and this confirms that the capacity market is become some impulse to build new cogeneration capacity. And as a part of winter package about the lack of support by the capacity market after 2024 for objects emission more than 550 grams CO2 per kilowatt hours was introduced. And in this slide, in this photo, you can see the limit marked by the red line and the selected Polish power plants and their current level of CO2 emission. So this limit, which is marked, shows which can be seen that not so much Polish power plant using coal as a fuel can meet this limit. So that's the real chance to change the Polish energy system, where will be less coal and more RS sources. And at the beginning, a few words about individual heat sources which dominate in Poland. We have a problem with air quality, especially now during the winter, which is often related to the bad quality of fuel used for burning household boilers. So the main emission standards for domestic boiler is PNEN, the regulation which defines emission classes with class 5 at the top. It defines the value of emissions, carbon monoxide, dust, and minimum required efficiency. So boiler which comply with emission class 5 and also Eco Design Directive are the cleanest currently existing coal or wood combustion device. As you can see in the chart, the actual standard includes 3 emission classes and no longer including first and second class. And class 5 is the best one at the moment, and from 2017 the only one allowed for new boilers which sold. So it's from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna.
Okay, I can stop my screen.
Hydron.
Yeah.
Franzi here speaking. Can I
you are
continue with presentation? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Chiara, can you shift the moderator to Franzi?
Franzi, I'm coming.
Yes.
Okay. Done. You can go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a second. Do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Hello to everyone. Hello, Hydron. I would like to give you a short presentation or input about the emission limits in our country. And if I start at the top of our authorities, there is a Ministry of the Environment and the Spatial Planning, and under the ministry is the Slovenian Environmental Agency. Its mission is to monitor and analyze and forecast natural phenomena and processes in the environment, and their areas of work is the air, water, environmental protection, nature, climate change, weather, and seismology. We focused on air emissions from combustion system, because this is the main topic of ENTRAIN project, of course. And the Environmental Agency of Republic of Slovenia has the following duties on the field of air quality protection. This is monitoring of outdoor air quality, collection emission data, and also performing administration procedures for air quality protection. At the head of the national legislation is the Environmental Protection Law, and under this environmental protection law, we have many different regulations because emissions depend on which fuel do you use and what type and power is the consumption system. And we focused on the regulation on emission of substances into air from medium consumption plants, gas turbines, and stationary engines. I will show you the table. This is emission limits from this regulation, emission limit values. And if we look at the table, the dust is 30 milligrams per cubic meter. The carbon monoxide is 225 milligrams per cubic meters, and nitrogen oxides 375 milligrams per cubic meter, and sulfur dioxide 400 milligrams per cubic meters. And if you look at the notes, all these values have notes in the right side. Maybe we'll look for the dust. This is for the combustion plants with a thermal input exceeding 5 megawatts and equal to or less than 20. We also have the total organic carbon is 15 milligrams per cubic meter of air. This is a really short presentation from our side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, I could go after, if it's fine for everyone. Yes.
Yeah, please. You will continue. So Francesco from Italy. Next one.
Yes. Hi everyone.
Okay.
I'm a new employee at APE Friuli. So, and I will join you on this project. So let's get straight to the point. Do you all see the presentation?
Yes, we see it.
All right. Perfect. So the last regulation about Italy, we're talking about emissions related to small and medium-sized biomass power plants, actually any thermal power plants. The last regulation is from 2017 and is basically adopting the directives from 2015 from EU, from Europe. Friuli region doesn't add any restriction on top of this. So it's on the national level, and these directives give different levels of emissions for different fuels, solid waste, biomass, liquid or gaseous fuels, and also dividing among existing and new planned power plants. Getting to the biomass power plants that are the one we are mostly interested into. You can see the three tables here. On the left, the two tables show the limits then the existing power plants needs to fulfill before and after 2025 and 2030, depending on the size of the plant. And basically, these tables regulate all the emissions for dust and all the other pollutants. Just to be noticed that the table totally on the left refers to an excess of oxygen of 11% in the exhale fumes, while the other two tables refer to a 6% of extra O2 in the combustion. And so that's why, that's why it's the numbers in the table in the middle are higher than the one on the left. While for the new power plants, the limits are even lower, and the directive actually recommends even lower limits to the newly planned power plants. Briefly about the situation in the region, air quality is overall pretty okay. On the map, you can see the number of days that the municipalities, the areas, overshoot the PM10 concentration, pollution concentration. And luckily, the region is not too densely populated and quite ventilated, which makes it quite better than the Po River Basin, which you all know is one of the most polluted areas in Europe as regards of air quality. And especially in Friuli-Venezia Giulia region, wood is already a major source of in residential heating, and it accounts already for over 50% of PM10 emissions. So talking about this, the air quality could even improve if we manage to centralize in some small and medium power plants, biomass power plants, because of taking away the emissions related to the distributed and inefficient plants and appliances. And that's it. Only on the bottom left of the region, so south west, there is some effects of the Po River Basin and some small areas where the iron and steel industry affects the nearby of the area. So that was it on my side.
Great, thanks, Francesco. So now Germany is the last country. Johanna Eichmüller. Yeah, she's.
Thank you, Heidrun. Chiara. Oh yeah, I see it here. You should see my screen now.
Yes, we see it.
Great. So I will conclude with the legal framework and emission limits in Germany. And first of all, I would like to make a clear distinction between the greenhouse gas emissions on the one hand, where we have a clear legal framework connected to the Paris Agreement and the Framework Convention on Climate Change. And then we have those emissions that create emissions which have a direct effect on the air quality and our health. And my presentation will focus on those emissions that have various sources, such as industry, households, waste management, traffic, agriculture is actually a huge one, and the energy sector, which is in our focus. So we're talking about various compounds here: nitrogen oxide, particulate matter, black carbon, and so on. The legal framework in Germany is regulated in the Federal Emissions Control Act, which you can see here on the right. And this law is specified by a long list of national regulations. In this graphic, you can see that both the approval procedure and the emission limits during operation depend on the plant size on the one hand and the fuel on the other hand. The compliance with these regulations is actually enforced by the district administrations, while an overall monitoring of the air quality is done on a state level by the environmental agencies. So you can see here on the left the fuel that can be used from natural wood. Then we have here certain categories of waste wood that can either be without organohalogen compounds or with organohalogen compounds, and also you see other biomass. So you see here the first, the 44th and the 13th ordinance, which actually mirrors the European legislation. So this is basically the Eco-Design Directive. This here is the directive for medium-sized power plants, and this would be the industrial-sized ones. And the 17th are actually waste incineration power plants. So let's take a closer look to the small combustion plants, which are below 1 megawatt. You can see here that the emission limits depend on the plant size, as well as the wood that is used in the plant. And we have limits for particulate matter and carbon monoxide. For district heating, mainly the medium-sized combustion plants are relevant, so sizes between 1 and 50 megawatt. We have not only carbon monoxide, but also particulate matter, nitrous oxide, the total carbon, sulfur, and so on. And the larger the plant gets, the more strict also the emission regulation becomes. That was just a short input from Germany. I think I can stop my screen. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for the interesting inputs from our partner regions. They showed a good overview about the situation in the different countries concerning regulations from emissions and air pollution, how EU requirements are implemented and what are country-specific problems, and also special approaches in the different countries. If you have questions, please put it now. Okay. If there are no questions.
Harald Schramme speaking. Maybe just a small practical remark regarding emission limits. Whenever you talk about emission limits, make sure that you know to which excess air content these emission limits are related to. You can make a significant error if you do not take that into account, especially if you compare values between, let's say, your manufacturer's limits and legal limits or limits between different countries. Thanks.